Hey everyone, hey and welcome back to yet another episode of Battle Rap Resume. This is your host, Tom Quee. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting in whatever way you can, leaving a review on the iTunes, following us on Twitter at Battle Rap Resume, the Patreon, of course. Donate on there. But I'm just very excited to get into today's episode. One of my favourite things to do with the series is to go back and look at some real interesting, iconic, legendary moments, and just all around awesome battle rapping. Stig of the Dump, how's it going, man?
Pretty damn good, brother. What are you saying?
Yeah, it's brilliant to have you on, man. Because you haven't had a battle online since 2009, but the legacy is still so heavy.
I don't know that I've battled since 2009 either. As I said to you just pre-starting this interview, my memory is a sick. So dates, I will constantly contradict myself with references and dates. So if 2009 was the Pro Green battle, I believe that's the last organized battle I took part in. Believe.
Yeah, I think that was 08, July 08.
So you said 09, what did I do after that?
09, you battled Saint, you battled Master Apps as well.
Did I? Oh yeah, that was in like a Scribble Jam prelim thing, wasn't it? Yeah, you're right. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, okay.
So I went out on a low.
Right. Yeah. Let's just talk in general first of all, like rapping as a whole, like first experiences, how did you actually start doing it?
Very, very first experiences was just the cliched kind of at a hip-hop night. And, I'm sure you've been to plenty of hip-hop nights. There's a fuckload of ego in those places. And so often just like an open mic cypher would turn into a battle. And then obviously, when that becomes a norm, you and your friends just start kind of battling each other just as you're becoming enthusiastic about freestyling. So that was kind of the very, very first interim, was just going to a few open mics in Newcastle and shoving a bunch of loudmouth soup behind my face, getting drunk, and just battles inevitably. It's hip hop, man. All that bollocks.
Was there a battle scene in Newcastle that you were aware of, or?
I don't think there was a battle scene in the UK so much at that time. There were battles happening, but social media and again YouTube hadn't really solidified, a domestic network in terms of like having a centralized place for people to go see battles. There was a thing called Jump Off TV, which is a main website, but it just wasn't. This is like well prior to any of the Jump Off TV stuff. So really, I don't think there was much of a battle scene in the UK, let alone in Newcastle. But obviously, when I say that, what I mean is established that everybody references rather than battles occurring. There were and still are battles occurring in Newcastle. Like I say, it's the rap thing to do, isn't it? If you're a young coming up, you want to prove yourself, then you go shout about how many times you fucked somebody's mum at an open mic.
And was it addictive early on? Because like your performance, particularly, it feels like a lot of catharsis in there.
Yeah, bro. Not to go too deep in the rabbit hole, I was my genesis into the reason I kind of took music or battling at all seriously was music, because I got fired from every job I ever had, and the real world is, or certainly was, a piece of shit. Right. In terms of my daily life, and in terms of the battling, I was broke. I've been broke most of my life, and it's cash. And then when the Eminem 8 Mile battle came out, and all of these, little rich boy promoters and bandwagon jumpers were like bringing out battle rap events. There literally would be hundreds of them in London. When I was in London, there would be like a handful of them around Newcastle at the time. So it was like I can roll down there. When I was in Newcastle, I was living with my folks still, so I could roll in at whatever time at night, earn 50 quid, earn a wanna, get drunk for free with my boys that I bring down with me, and then, still be at work the next day. And then when I moved to Newcastle, I was homeless. When I moved to London, I became homeless. And so battling was a means to alcohol money and food money for me. So, like it was an addiction in terms of it was a distraction and it was a source of money for substance abuse.
Right.
And catharsis, definitely. I was a way angrier dude back then, bro. So to be able to scream in somebody's face and then not have to knuckle up with them, it's cathartic, bro. And especially as a lot of the time I had a rapport with a lot of the battlers. There's very few battlers that I don't get on with or didn't get on with.
Yeah.
So, like it was understood that it was all in good faith, as it were. So yeah, it was definitely cathartic. It was not cathartic about telling somebody how angry you are when you're angry.
Yeah. And talk about the people at these events, these early London events. Any names that went on to do great things?
I mean, obviously, the likes of Professor Green.
Oh, yeah.
He went to be established. I smoked away most of my memories. I mean, there are names that the nerds, which I use affectionately, will remember. Possessed, BA. They went on to be big name battlers. Pretty much all of the UK battlers that pre my bowing out of it were in and around the London battle scene. Do you know what I mean? Me and Possessed and Respect BA and a guy called Rain, or what's his face, that was his other name. We all hung out socially and freestyle together. So there was a lot of people about. I mean, there were literally artists that you will have, like Rex 32, not Rex 32, sorry, Dot Rotten, a few people like that who would come down to these events in Camden. But as far as names, I mean, I don't really watch other people, so I couldn't tell you who's gone on to be successful, bro.
And what about battle scars at this time? Was that soon after these events, or?
Yeah, battles. Well, which events? This is soon after I'd moved to London. When I first moved to London, so I was in London. I was in a home for a year when I moved to London, working and what have you. And then at the end of that year, I became homeless. And I was at Battle Scars for about 3 or 4 months before I became homeless. When I first moved to London, I used to go to this night called Speaker's Corner, which was an open mic rather than a battle. So there would be ciphering, and then likes of, I don't know if you know the name, Sonny Jim,
right.
Who would become a good friend. He would come down from Birmingham, and then you'd have the likes of Lee Scott and Salah, who are the anti-heroes from Liverpool, Respect BA from Glasgow. People would come to these open mics, and then, we'd end up ciphering outside till 4 or 5 in the morning, drunk and battling there. But in terms of actual arranged battles, the first ones were probably about 2 or 3 months before I became homeless. I started entering the trials, as it were, like the smaller prizes. As with a lot of these things, they've got kind of round winners and small prizes, and then they culminate in a bigger competition with more money. So it was probably about then. Back then, I don't even remember what your question was, whether I've answered it.
No, you have. Slightly off topic, well, not really, but the name Stig of the Dump, is that any reference at all to Clive King, or?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a hell of a coincidence if it was. When I was a young'un, I was a typical little kid climbing trees, playing in mud and all that shit. And obviously, you know the book, but for those who don't, the book is about a boy who goes to visit his grandparents during the summer holidays, plays in a rubbish dump, and either has an imaginary friend, or obviously it's written from his perspective. So a real friend he meets is a little boy who lives in the rubbish dump, like a cave boy who he calls Stig. And so being a scruffy little urchin as a young'un and, muddy and climbing trees, my old man nicknamed me it when I was still in single figures. And then I went on to, when I first started rapping, to have a bunch of stupid rap names, you know what I mean? MC, super mega, rap words. And eventually just thought, what am I fucking doing? Everybody calls me, like my parents called me Stig my whole life, teachers, everybody I know. In fact, if I get called by my government name, I feel like I'm in trouble. So it just became, it was just this, it was a common sense move. It was obvious progression to use it as a moniker. But weirdly enough, the granddaughter of Clive King, the guy who wrote it, contacted me to say her granddad would have been really proud.
Oh,
I don't know if that's true. I don't think he listened to my music or saw me shout cunt people, but apparently he'd have been really proud.
I'm sure he would have done. Yeah, I'm sure he would. I mean, yeah. Shout out Clive King.
Shout out Clive King every day, bro.
But in of itself, it is kind of a rappy name, Stig of the Dump. It's a very sort of battle rappy.
It is. I've got to be honest with you, mate. Retrospectively, it's actually been a bit of a hindrance because of some people's attitudes who obviously have heard the book and are a bit like, what? Like the book is their first point of reference, so they're like, they dismiss it for that, and then it's caused issues with like the BBC when I've been on their radio show a few times and TV appearances, and it's been a bit of, because it's a famous name, you know, it's not necessarily that there's been any challenges from the owner of the original copyright, but just, you know, it's known, so it's definitely hindered me a little bit. And I have thought about changing it a bunch of times, but, you know, whatever. Real life is more important than rap. Fuck rap. So I just stuck with it.
No, fair enough, man. And, you know, talking of great names, in both senses of the word, Respect BA. We mentioned him prior, had him on the show a few times. You know, such an incredible talent, you know, unbelievable battler. You and him teaming up, bit of a no-brainer, I guess, for these WRC's prelims.
I mean, I guess it's a bit of a no-brainer from the outside. We're both rec heads at the time, both Northern at the time, both actually without a fixed abode at the time. So, yeah, it kind of made sense. Both similar outputs. You know, I'm sure you know, like, Northerners, rowdy people in general, but salt of the earth with it, you know. So, despite my accent, that's where I'm from. So, yeah, it just worked as a friendship. The same with all of this shit, to be honest with you, bro. Like, as I said a minute ago, real life is my main priority. And I got on with these people as human beings. I got on with Respect BA. He's a really good lad. So it was kind of, you know, we both had a passion. We both had a, like you say, almost an obsession with something. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of catharsis. And yeah, it made sense. Same ways to, you know, friends meet up and kick about a football. I don't give a fuck about kicking balls. So right. Because I met up with my mates to do when I was late teens, early 20s. So yeah, it makes sense in that way, I guess.
And I mean, the day itself, lots of battling, was it? I bet it was quite exhausting.
What, the World Rap Championship?
Yeah.
I mean, what's exhausting about rapping? It's the reason I do it for a living. Mate. It's fuck a real job. Yeah, like I'm not lifting bricks up a ladder. Sure. It's my thing. It's my problem with battlers in general and artists in general. Is like I think a lot of them don't really. I think a lot of them live in a fantasy world. It's a piece of piss, mate. Like it might be. I'm not saying it's not a skill, and I'm not saying it's not a craft, and I'm not saying it's not an art form. But in terms of like, I was homeless at the time, so I had way bigger concerns than. Yeah. Oh, have I got the motivation and focus to spend a day shouting at some people? Like, come on, that's easy, mate. It's easy. It was stressful in terms of, you know you're going to get judged, and I'm sure if you're stupid enough to read through the YouTube comments on any video, the world is full of judgmental morons. So inevitably, in amongst the 80% racist comments that these dickheads leave on every video on YouTube ever, the rest of them are just hating on people. So obviously, you know, there's that in the back of your mind, but I don't give a fuck about their opinion neither. So it wasn't stressful. I was more bothered about whether there would be enough pizza to go around at this time, or whether I'd be able to get pissed afterwards.
And did it bother you that you didn't go through to the finals, or?
It bothered me at the time, yeah. I didn't know that it was the right decision at the time, and I can't say I've given it enough time or thought subsequently to amend that decision. But I remember at the time not thinking it was like a severe injustice or anything. And obviously the two that did go through, Rain and Zest, were at the time good friends. So it was like the bitter pill of not winning was cushioned by the fact that two of my mates won. You know, and again, like, it's fucking battle rap, bruv. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I was gutted, but not as gutted as sleeping on a park bench that night. So
right. Yeah. And I mean, Jump Off, you pretty much exclusively battled on. Like, did you feel it was getting quite popular, these videos? Were a lot of people watching them, or?
I didn't really pay a lot of attention to that. If anything, I found, and I still find that, like, numbers, I don't find that it's much of an indication of anything other than attention. You know what I mean? It doesn't suggest equality. It doesn't, just literally, like, Jesus Christ, look at who's number one week in, week out. It's always some talent as fuck. So numbers don't really mean much to me. In terms of, like, it was an opportunity for me to make some money. Like, I went on that, I don't know if you know about the little, I can't remember what it's called, like Mega Rap Assassins or some shit name.
Right.
Me and Mike Assassin toured the country.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So, these were just opportunities that were afforded to a dude whose life was about drinking cheap cider and boffing nail varnish, bro. So it's really just, it was catharsis. It was, I wasn't thinking about success or exposure or any of that bullshit that people wave under your nose as a carrot on a stick. Really, it was just short-term benefits. I can shout. It wasn't that I thought I was particularly good at it. I just thought most people would shit at it. Right. And it was money. It was cash money, and I needed that at the time. I was desperate for that, for the booze and alcohol, booze and food. So that was really my only motivation early on. That and the obsession and nerdiness of the craft. You know what I mean? It was, the results never really bothered me. I lost a few battles. Some of them shockingly robbed, others clearly made a fool of because I either underperformed or, was just bettered on the day. So none of that was really my motivation. It was always just the moment, the catharsis of enjoyment and the cash that came with it.
And you were part of a sort of classic tournament of this era, Spin the Mic. 2006, man. I mean, rewatched that recently. It still holds up. Such an entertaining mix of battlers.
Yeah, it's really weird that there's a bit of a thorn in my side because I read an interview post that Spin the Mic when I lost my battle to Riz Ahmed, who went on to huge success. He was in the last Star Wars. That's the fucking success he's gone on to. And in an interview, he basically called me racist. Again, removing the context of a battle and. And obviously I was pissed and I lost to him, and it was just a bit like, what? Come on, you fucking... Like, I'd hung around with him plenty of times before and after, so when I read the interview, I was a bit like, what? A fucking dickhead statement is that to say in the context of a battle, especially when you consider subsequently how extreme the insults went on to become. Like, it's almost tame watching that, you know what I mean? So... a bit of a thorn in my side. It's funny. The Spin the Mic is starting up again. I believe
it is.
Arrow contacted me to see if I was interested.
Is that just not for you anymore? Is battling just done, or?
I still fucking love writing. Like, love writing. So from the angle of somebody who still loves playing with the words, and I still watch a handful of battlers. I'll always watch anything with Pat Stay, always watch anything with, like, Big K, Ilmac, Bender, Daylight. Like, there's a few heads I check for, and obviously enjoying the way they put their shit together makes me then go, I get a little bit of like it would be fun, because I literally never got involved in written battles. It was all freestyles for me from start to finish. I left the whole thing at the point that when I was battling, using writtens was considered, like cheating almost.
He's got a whack flow. I'ma send this fucking inbred fuck back to Glasgow. You know that's fucking true. Now watch me yam him. I'm not being funny, but we can't even understand them. What the fuck is right now? Man, I'm dropping it sick. Yeah, man, this is London. They don't understand Scottish.
That progression came, that change to written writing came as I was pulling away from it. And so obviously I never had an opportunity to prove myself as a written battler. And I always, forgive the ego or whatever, but I've been writing for 10 years. I always thought I would do pretty well. I always thought if you're going into a written battle and you're not performing well, you're fucking trash. Because you're going in there with an opportunity to prepare. And this is what I do, bro. Like, I make a living making music, or I did. You know what I mean? So so it was something that I have and had the utmost confidence in, my ability to actually write, and obviously the benefit of it being a cappella and there being so much more space for movement and so much more space for breath control and cadence and all that shit. Yeah, I definitely had a pull towards it, but by the time it was about writtens and not freestyling, I was more interested in bettering myself than proving I was better than other people, if that makes sense. I just reached the point in my life where it was like, I don't know, I wasn't as angry, I wasn't as bothered about what other people thought, whether they were better than me or I was better than them or better than X or better than Y. And it was just like, you know what? This is a solo mission. There's a Charles Bukowski poem called All the Way In. Everybody should fucking read that shit if they're about, sorry, not all the way in, just all the way, if they're passionate about anything. And that was me at the time, is I loved writing and I went all the way in. And so the battle side of it, the competitive aspect just kind of dissipated. That's why I'm saying I only really get it when I watch it. But the thought of me sitting down and spending, 2 days writing for another human being, I don't know, it just seems a bit not of a waste of a time, because I do still appreciate the art and I do still watch it, but just that's time I could spend creating a piece of music that hopefully at least one person will connect to enough to listen to it for 30 years. There are people who message me. I got a message yesterday from somebody talking about how important a track was to him that I released while doing the WRCs on an album I released called Homeless Microphonist. And, nobody ever emails me to say, oh, bruv, that time you told Possessed that his mum was a sack, that really meant something to me, So it's like, it just the important shift. There was a whole shift in myself, I guess, when I stopped being homeless and just shit like that. Just I don't know. Real life, mate. Real life.
Yeah. And I mean, before you stopped, around that time, in 2008, we had you battling Professor Green, which is 500,000 view battle, ginormous battle. This was for 50k, right? But it wasn't 50k of actual money.
Of course, they put that fucking 50k in giant shiny lights, but now it was 50 grand's worth of advertising on MySpace, and on top of that, there was a runner-up prize of, I think, don't quote me on this, like 10 grand of MySpace advertising. And at the time, I was coming up to releasing my second album, so to me, 10 or 50 grand's worth of advertising was a fucking huge deal. You know what I mean? Like, obviously not as important as 10 grand or 50 grand, but nevertheless, it's not no 100 quid here and there. Like, I'm not suggesting if I'd have won that, I'd have gone on to be signed by Virgin. Not at all. I'm not some fucking, I'm not here. I can't be sold to 14-year-olds like Pro Green can. So I'm not saying if I'd have won, I'd have gone down his path, and I wouldn't have wanted to anyway, but just the opportunity to have 50 grand's worth of reach, you know what I mean? Especially if it's tailored reach, where you're reaching a section of people who are likely to enjoy your music, rather than it just being on the front page of something. Like, I don't give a fuck about there's a Lee Scott bar. I don't give a fuck if you know the name, face, as long as you know the name. That's my whole thing, is 50 bags of advertising could move me music. If I can move music at the time, I could get back into a house. If I could get back into a house, I could be a normal human being again. So that was my thinking.
And I mean,
50 grand would have been a lot nicer.
Yeah.
But
it is funny, actually. On the final thing you see on the video, it says 50 grand with like an asterisk next to it, and then underneath it's like in MySpace dollars, and it's like,
yeah. You know what? The people who run that jump off, the two brothers, they're nice dudes, but there's, I don't know, like I hate all that clickbait bullshit. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's the same with headlines these days. The headline is a complete, like, super tenuous roundup of what an actual article is about these days, and those guys were fully on that back then. So yeah, but whatever. That's the way they chose to run their shit.
I mean, crazy to see how far Professor Green's gone, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's a talented kid. You know what I mean? It depends what you mean by how far. Like,
just his the shows he's playing, the album sales.
You mean fame? And,
I mean fame, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it is crazy, but
That's fool's gold to you, right?
yeah, really, really fool's gold. I mean, bruv, the shows ain't, and the fucking rent money ain't, but the celebrity bird and the fucking gossip column write-ups, like that's not only is it fool's gold to me, it's dog shit to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, look, bro, it's nice for you to call me and ask me my opinions on some shit, but I don't fucking matter. Like, it ain't important, bro. Like, real world is important. My bird, my dog, the roof over my head, the weed I smoke, and the people I love. That's what's important. So the glitz and the glamour, like, I've actually peered through the looking glass. I've toured with big platinum artists. I did fucking Ali Pali with Bastille to 20,000 people with Bastille and Rag and Bone Man. I've seen the other side of the looking glass, mate, and it's all that glitters ain't gold. So I would love to be doing the shows he's doing, but do I want 14-year-old girls for fans? Like, do they really understand the content, or is it just like, oh, he's talking about heartbreak and he's pretty? I sound like a bitter, ugly guy saying that. I don't want fucking young birds to fancy me anyway, bro. Yeah, I don't know. It's just never has interested me. Never. Like I see it for what it is. You know what I mean? It's just it's a veneer. It's a sales pitch, bro. So no, it doesn't. But that said, I don't want anybody to think, you know, there's any bitterness between me and him. Oh, yeah. I like the dude. Like, it's not, the music he makes isn't for me. But then I don't understand people who waste their time disliking music. Like, just, well, focus on some shit you do like. So I'm not into what he's making, but best of luck to the dude. He did a beer collaboration, and I quite like the beer. So
right.
You know what I mean?
Okay. And I guess it's fair to say, you know, that you've not really been chasing commercial success. You've got really no interest in that sort of thing. Like, you know, you branched out to dubstep, didn't you?
Yeah, I like some dubstep. I really like the rolling, low, bassy shit rather than the tear out wobbly shit. Even though I did a couple of tear out wobbly dub plates, just I like music, bro. You know what I mean? And so I like rock music. I like I listen to. Have you listened to Jolene by Dolly Parton? Slowed down to 33 instead of 45. It's amazing, bro.
I haven't. Wow.
Sick. Give it a go after this interview.
Yeah, I will.
It's sinister and amazing, and then message me back and tell me I was right.
I will.
But yeah, so I just like different genres of music. I grew up listening to fucking Otis Redding and Alice Cooper and Meatloaf and Beach Boys and NWA and all artists always go, oh yeah, I was really eclectic, but I genuinely was. So for me, it's common sense. If I like something, I'm going to turn my hand to it and give it a go. But unfortunately, other people have what their tastes, and they define an artist if they ever step out of those boundaries as like, they get angry about that shit. But me personally, like, I'm in this for myself, and I mean that. Let me re-quantify that. I'm in this for myself, my loved ones, and my love of the music, my love of the craft. You know what I mean? Like, I would love to. I'm lucky I get to do gigs around Europe these days, and I haven't done one for a minute, but I get to do shows in the UK and Europe, and that's amazing. And I'm not saying, given the opportunity, I wouldn't love to do bigger shows and make more money and move more units, but not if it leaves the taste of dick in the back of my mouth. Right. When I became homeless, that was having played the game properly. I didn't become homeless because I didn't play the game. In fact, I became homeless because I tried to play a game that I wanted no part of. And so that left me with an attitude of like, well, why would I try and be what they want to, so I know this seems like a weird tangent, but that's my whole attitude towards the fame and the gossip columns and the hype. That's the word I'm looking for, hype. It's not even about fame, because fame is a by-proxy of talent. That's a different thing to hype. The hype just doesn't fucking interest me. And when I tried to play the game and it went sour, at that point I was like, hold up a minute. I'm going to just do me. I don't give a fuck for what anybody else wants. And, that's probably limited my progression, but everything's on my terms. I'm in another country, sat with a joint in my mouth at work, where I'm writing bars, and I've got a booking just come in for a French festival. So it might be small time, but it's all solid, shiny, fucking real world important shit to me, rather than, you know, that whole celebrity world is people all being friends because either it's beneficial to them or because they've become so successful that they're separated from the real world and they need, you know, they need other people who understand their bullshit. So yeah, it don't interest me at all, bro. And I think to anybody who is chasing that shit, you know, I think when the bubble bursts, you'll realize it. It's just the way I do it, innit? Maybe I'm fucking wrong. You only live once at the end of the day. I'm sure Pro Green's loving booting about in his shiny Mercedes, being in Monster adverts, but I would feel really uncomfortable running over cars in a traffic jam to advertise energy drinks. But that's just me.
Right.
You know, I'm not judging him. Do what the fuck you want to do with your life, bro. As long as you're not fucking kids or animals, you can do anything, and I've got love for it.
So, 28 battles altogether, at least, that were uploaded.
Too much time counting what I'm doing. But
yeah.
okay.
It's on Verse Tracker, it does it for me, but 1.7 million views as well, which is, you know, pretty impressive. One of the battles I just want to talk about quickly, you battled him a few times, Archaic. I appreciate you might not have the greatest memory for it, but do you remember the battle you guys did? And like throughout Archaic's second round, there's that old man, and like you do a bar against him, and then he starts harassing Archaic for the whole round.
Was it in Norwich?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember very little about it, other than the fact that we were being forced to battle in public places, which I hated. Because I always remember battling outside Selfridges with Mike Assassin, and it's like, you know, the same attitude that doesn't want to be famous is the same attitude that doesn't want to stand in a public place shouting for attention.
Listen, fuck this dude! I'm about to bruise him now! Yeah, Tuesday's his day, eh? It's when you come out! I'm about to spit a free throw! Fuck this bitch's ego! Dude's getting ahead of himself like his name was Mickey Negro!
You know, bro, I'm a big character, but I'm not necessarily a wallflower. I don't want to. I'm sure you understand, bro. If I turned around to you in the middle of Oxford Circus and was like, right, we need you to now perform to camera while people are walking past you, rich cunts in Selfridges as well, to go buy their perfume by some, you know, trollop model, which is charged 80 quid, and they're walking past me, and I'm fucking homeless and shouting about how fat Mike Assassin was at the time. He's lost loads of weight. Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So yeah, I don't really. The only thing I really remember about it, there was a little bit of bad blood between me and Sam actually at the time, and that kind of thing with the general public coming over and butting in was not that uncommon, especially if I remember right, the guy was pissed. So, you know, I grew up in Newcastle and I've been a drunk myself. So to be interrupted by them, you know, it's what's going to happen if you're going to just stand out in the middle of, you know, a busy high street and shout insults at each other.
Yeah, he just sort of, like, you say basically he's Ark's dad, and then he sort of gets perked up, and then Ark, and then Ark just sort of flips it, and then the guy won't go away, and Ark is like,
what did he say to me? Did he kill me with the flip? What was his?
I can't remember what his flip. Let me just check my notes, but I do remember him saying that, like, he just wants you to be like the old man and just shut up, because the old man's sort of going on throughout the entire round. So he oh man, it's just a weird battle. Just everyone needs to check out. It's got like 5,000 views or something. I might put.
I don't know that everyone does need to check it out. Come on, let's be honest with them. Everybody who's listening, if you want to check out battles, there are a lot better battles to check out. Here's the thing: if they check it out and they go, "Wait a minute, this is just some pissed, drunk dickhead interrupting an already average battle, and then they leave a hateful comment, it will be your fault.
That is true. Actually, maybe don't watch it. Maybe I'll just post a clip. But I mean, it's a bit of a jumble, really. Like with Don't Flop and other leagues, you have sort of there's an event and then these battles get released. But Jump Off's a bit more haphazard. Some of these are uploaded years after. So it looks, in 2009, for example, there's like literally about 15 battles of yours that are uploaded.
Is there? Oh, I wish they were all deleted, to be honest with you. But
yeah, do you not? I mean, you don't look back fondly on those, or?
Some of them I do, some of them I don't. But homelessness will do some things to your head, you know what I mean? And it's like I say, there was genuine anger in some of the shit I was shouting, and I don't think retrospectively looking back, when I look at it, I don't think to myself, oh yeah, there's a guy in control. There's a guy involved in an art form. I just see a fucking dude shouting shit, and I was young and I was, still learning the craft and blah, blah, blah. So it's not that I look back with any level of shame at all. It's not that I look back with any level of embarrassment at all. It's just that it's not a big deal in my life. And at the time I was going through some shit. So it's not a big deal in my life enough for me to look back at it with fondness, other than just going like, fucking hell, I've done some weird shit in my life, haven't I? Yeah. So it's not enough to be like a fond memory. And so therefore the memory of where I was in my life at the time is, that's kind of really what I associate with that period of just alcoholism and spiraling down, really. And I think, I also think that really affected my ability as a writer. I really think it affected my focus on life. I was, like I say, I was more focused on winning a battle than I was writing good bars. If I'm brutally honest with myself, that's what I cared more about, was the win and the money as a result, than I did about improving as a writer, which now I care more about that. So, again, I don't think negatively. I just go, it's not something I would ever, if anybody ever asked for an example of some shit I've done, I would never play them any battle I've ever done. And as a result, when I meet new people, or, prospective collaborations, or, prospective managers, agents, whatever, and they're like, oh, I've heard about you, like if they're not fans, they're just business types, and it's like, let me Google it, and then they Google me standing outside Selfridges homeless. You know what I mean, bro? So it's like, it's not shame, but I've done some shit that I am genuinely super proud of, and there's evidence, both audio, video, and photographic or whatever, visual, of that. So it's just a case of like, that shit, because certainly Asher D and Pro Green, they're bigger names. So that Asher D battle gets me recognized all the fucking time. Like when I was in London, I'd be traveling home at 3 o'clock in the morning, and some pissed student would stop to talk to me about Asher D. And it's like, I appreciate the love, but I've had that conversation 1,000 times. Yeah, he said the same thing twice. Yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? So it's just, it is what it is. I can't really explain it. I guess I'm conscious of the fact that I might sound like I'm being negative, and I don't mean to be. It's just that it's whatever, bro.
Was there anyone that back then you wanted to battle that you didn't get the chance to?
I think only through admiration, like, but the nature of battling is really that, like, it's rare. It's very rare that two battlers will want a battle and there is a level of respect from start to finish. You know what I mean? At some point, it's always they want the stripe. So most of the people I wanted to battle because I respected them. Like I say, the likes of maybe Ilmac, but I didn't want the scalp enough to actually say, let's go at it. It wasn't a case of not thinking I was up to it. It was a case of more like just not having. I never had the hunger for it. You know what I mean? That's what I keep saying. It never went beyond the moment of, I want to win this battle that I've agreed to, because I've agreed to it now, and I don't want to feel shitty about myself, and there's money at stake. But it was never like, I want to be the best battler in the world. That just never really appealed to me. So I never really had the attitude of taking stripes unless they were in front of me. and then it was an obstacle, and then it was like, right, I've got a job to do. You know, they're in the way of me getting to what I need rather than I want to get to the top. So, no, not really. And then plus on top of that, through battling, weirdly enough, you come in contact with a lot of these people, the likes of Ilmac, Dirtbag Dan, Madness. When they came over to the UK, because of, I don't know if it's the reputation I had or just I'm more noticeable than a lot of these little rap nerds, which I don't say with affection. Occasion. So they just gravitated towards me, and I became, I don't want to say friends, these people live in a different country to me, but, you know, mates. People that, like, when they flew over to battle, they would stay with me and we'd cipher and what have you. So it's like, I kind of got it that, I kind of got my kicks that way instead. You know, I say by the time these people were getting bigger names for themselves, by the time battling itself was becoming a bigger thing, I was pulling away from it. So,
and in the subsequent years since 2009 and the battle against Saint, whenever that was, have any leagues got in touch asking, you know, making offers?
Yeah, bro. I've been offered plenty of times. Rowan's contacted me from Don't Flop. That's on numerous occasions to battle for him. John Poff have contacted me. I want to say that an international company has contacted me, but I could just literally be making that up. So I won't bother, just in case they go, what the fuck is he on about? Ring in or whatever. But I mean, you know, no, because it moved on. It moved on from me, and I'll be surprised if a lot of the people listening in remember those days so much, because battling's become so much bigger. It's moved on. Do you know what I mean? Battling when I was young was part of hip hop. Whereas now I see it in the same way as I see scratch DJing, which is that scratch DJing might have had, or turntablism, sorry, might have had a genesis in hip-hop, but 90% of the turntablists don't give two fucks about hip-hop. They give a fuck about turntablism, and I respect that. So it's the same with battlers. I know a lot of the battlers don't actually give a shit about rap music. They give a shit about battling, and I got no problem with that. Like, why should they give a fuck about what I give a fuck about? But conversely, you know, so it's like, where the fuck am I going?
No, it's good, man.
Your hate is working.
You did a track with R.A. the Rugged Man.
Yeah, I did.
That's mad.
Rugged Man. Yeah, I've done some fucking weird things.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, I was. That was so during the WRCs when I was homeless. Just in case I hadn't mentioned that enough.
All right.
I was signed to a label called Beer and Rap Music, and that was a label that was affiliated with a night called Beer and Rap, which was run in Brighton. And Rugged Man was booked to play at Beer and Rap. And so I think I hosted, maybe I didn't host, but because I was signed to the label, the guy who ran the label spoke to him because he was the promoter and was like, look, I think you'd do well on a track with this guy, Stig. He sat down and listened to my shit and was like, yeah, all right. Then we gave him a fee because this is business, is what you do. And then we went to the studio together. I've actually toured with him a few times since, both Germany and England. Every time I'm not in the UK anymore, but back when I was in London, if he ever played at Jazz Cafe, give us a shout and I'd go have some food and go to see him at Jazz Cafe. He's a really good guy, actually.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And, you know, in terms of the music in general then, like, that was kind of the main thing, was it, that was powering on? Did you feel that it kind of helped you as a writer, as an artist, through battling? Or?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. The pressure of, that's what I'm saying, I might not have been writing to get better, that might not have been my focus, but the pressure of losing makes you improve, and more importantly, the environment I was in. So I was socializing with the likes of, like I say, What's His Face, Possessed, Respect BA. We were in some little full quartet of nerds called the Freestyle Masons.
Right.
And, you know, so when you're with people who, I always say this to anybody who's aspiring to make music, surround yourself with people who you don't feel like you're good enough to be around. Now, that wasn't necessarily that extreme a case, but I have been in that position when you don't feel you're good enough. If you're the right kind of person, you use that to improve. You want to be as good as the people you're writing with. And when you're around three other fucking beasts, and those three at the time for freestyling were beasts on a world level, not even on a domestic level. So it just, it makes you sharp. And then freestyling as a skill makes your ability to recall multis a lot quicker. So, it's definitely improved on my writing. That's why I'm saying I don't regret it at all. Like, I'm really glad I did it. I'm really glad I did it. I did some fucking mental shit, but it's just, it's not a be all and end all. So yeah, it's hugely improved me, hugely.
Okay, man. We'll wrap up with a few quick fire questions. The first one would be, what's your favourite jump off battle in general?
That I've watched or been part of?
Just that you've watched, yeah.
This is where my memory comes in, mate. Jump off. Nah, sorry, I really genuinely can't answer. I'm not being different.
It's all good. What about Don't Flop?
Don't Flop battle. I'm really not going to be able to answer my favourite battles at all. I can tell you my favourite battlers.
Okay.
But I couldn't recall any battles as individual battle. This is what I'm saying about. This is why I'm saying I changed my focus, bro. Because it's like there are battles that I've watched that I've been watching, thinking like really nerding out on the writing, the delivery, the writing, the art form. But I'm gonna give a fuck about it 10 minutes later. Whereas a track, I could tell you right now some of the most important tracks, hip hop and otherwise, in my life, and so that kind of is the reason for the shift in focus. Because I think it takes a special kind of enthusiasm for battling to really be able to. Apart from I can tell you famous ones: Juice versus. Oh fuck.
Supernat.
You know what I mean? Or like Ilmac versus Thesaurus, because obviously their friends are black. So there's things I watch, but none of them are like, yeah, that's my favourite battle. Like, nah.
Sure. Okay, well,
I don't want the the super nerds who are into super battle raps to be butthurt about that shit. Like, I'm not putting it down. It's fucking incredible. Yeah. Like I say, it made me better, and I do watch it. It's just it don't pay my fucking rent, and I don't. Do you? I'm asking you a question now. Do you watch battles apart from for things like this, where you're like, I'm going to speak to somebody soon? Do you go back and rewatch your favourite battles, maybe more than once?
Yeah.
You do? You watch, how many times would you say you've watched your favourite battle?
Oh, man, I've probably watched Soul Matter like 100 times or something.
Soul who?
Soul versus Matter.
Oh, Matter from Leeds and Soul.
Yeah.
Oh, I know both of them, and they're both good. Soul is an incredible writer.
Oh, my God.
Okay, so, and how many times would you say you've watched that?
Oh, maybe 100 times. I've watched it regularly since 2011. Yeah.
Sick, bro. Then I'm not disparaging your passion. That's
no, of course.
Me personally, if I sat you in front of the film Warriors, which I must have watched 1,000,000 times, I'm sure you go, what the fuck is this trash?
Well, that's actually the next question. What is your favourite film?
Really? That was the next question?
Yeah.
There you go. My favourite film of all time, not necessarily the best film of all time, but my favourite film of all time is the film Warriors, which if you haven't watched, persevere with it, because it's fucking weird, and you will, if you are into rap music, you'll hear more samples from that film than almost any other film ever. It's fucking incredible, bro.
Okay.
But then I also love The Big Lebowski. That's an amazing film. I'm a film nerd, mate. Like, there's 3 things in my life that I'm super nerdy for. One of them is writing, one of them is films, and the other is comedy. So, but Warriors is my go-to when I'm feeling shit and I know that I'm going to enjoy it.
Okay, and final question. Your favourite musical artist or band that is in no way hip-hop related?
Oh, right. No way hip-hop related.
Yeah.
So, Rage Against the Machine.
Oh.
What do you mean by no way hip-hop related?
Just non-rap music, really. Normally, I'm looking for like a rock answer or whatever,
Well, Rage Against the Machine are very rock. I fucking love them. Zach De La Rosa is an incredible...
Oh, man.
But I would say they are hip-hop. That's the thing.
I guess to a certain extent, yeah.
Not to take away from rock. I'm a bit of a rock guy as well. My favourite... I don't know, bro. I would say probably someone like... as I say, I've got quite an eclectic taste in music. Charles Bradley, rest in peace. I love him. I listen to a lot of acid rock these days. There's a band called... the Allman Brothers Band, and a track called Whipping Post that I've been...
Oh, man. I love the Allman Brothers Band. Yeah.
Yeah, so them... I still listen to a lot of ragga and reggae, so someone, like fucking... Adonia, who's a bashment artist. Fuck loads of people, bro. I listen to so much shit, you know what I mean? So much shit. So I don't think, I realise it's probably being difficult, but I don't think I could pick a favourite. I would have probably gone with Rage Against the Machine had you not said, if you'd have just said not a rapper, I would have said probably Rage Against the Machine, but then stipulated non-hip hop at all, that meant I couldn't say them.
Yeah. No, that's all good, man. I like it when people just splurge out loads. It's always cool to get the recommendations. So, yeah, I guess finally, your music, social media, how do people get at you?
Everything is Stig of the Dump UK, I believe. I stupidly changed my Facebook to Stig Dixon. But listen, bro, I don't give a fuck about social media. Don't follow me. Go outside, you sad cunts. The only thing I would say that really social media that I pay much attention to is Instagram, because I live a fucking bit of an odd life. I'm out by the mountains and I'm surrounded by a ridiculous amount of weed, and I love those things. So therefore, I share pictures of weed and pictures of my dog and the things that I like. But really, so that's me. Fuck the music. That's me. That's Stig rather than Stig of the Dump. But I don't give a fuck if you follow me. You can get my music from stigofthedump.com. More importantly, I'm part of a duo called Legion of Goon with my oldest friend, Stu the Don, aka Cancer Stew. We've just put out a free album called Project Goon. You can get that from legionofgoon.com. We're about to put out a second free album called Fully Growed in the next 2 or 3 months. Just, people know, if they want to hear me and they want to find my shit, they'll find it, man. If you're too fucking lazy, then you don't give a fuck, and that's fine. I don't need you to give a fuck. So turn your fucking screens off, roll a joint, and go outside instead. All
right, well, Stig, it's been a treat, man, to have you on. Seriously, this has been.
I'm sorry it was such a bore. Like I say,
so good.
I'm helping my mate set this company up, so I've been super fucking busy of late, and then I'm in a new country in a new house, so I've only just got the internet in my yard and blah 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 blah. Sorry, innit, bro. I've been
all good, man. No, thank you again for joining me, man. So obviously, please, I'll put all the links in the description for Stig stuff down below. Follow us at BRR. But yeah, finally, thank you again, bro.
No drama, bro.